guys, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I wanted to jump on the bandwagon for a trend that I seem to be seeing everywhere at the moment. I literally watched one video about it and all of a sudden that is all I see in my subscription feed. It is the Foxy trend. You know what, I'm not too sure which one it is exactly, but I know that everyone whose video I watch about it just turns around and goes, yeah, it's a cat eye. It's basically the same thing. We've gone full circle, we've come back to an older makeup trend and we have just changed which animal does it in the first place, apparently. So I just wanted to do something a little bit more wearable, a little bit more neutral than usual. So here we are. I've gone for this Foxy cat eye, whichever one you want to call it. So it's just a really elongated, really flattering, really glamorous eye. And I've tried to keep it really as simple as I possibly could. I'm only using one eyeshadow palette. I'm using a minimal number of shades within that palette, and I've tried to reduce the number of brushes I use drastically. I'm going to try and leave it as much of the actual process in as I can rather than cut it down as much as I normally do. Maybe just speed things up, just to go into as much detail as we possibly can. So if you'd like to see how I got this look, then just keep watching. Alright guys, so today I thought we'd do things a little bit differently for once. I haven't got any primer on or anything at all right now. I did my morning skincare routine and that is it. Because I figured for once we could actually do a full face of makeup from start to finish, because I just don't do them very often these days. So the first thing that I like to do is just make sure that I'm starting off with a nice clean base. So I'm going to go in with a little bit of Garnier Micellar Water. This is the one for sensitive skin, so it's suitable for all skin types and it's fragrance free, which is why I really like it. So I'm just going to start by sweeping that all over my face. Make sure everything is nice and clean. I do like this one because it helps to freshen up the skin and just remove any last traces of makeup you may have had. I don't use it as a makeup remover though. I don't think it's quite enough to get makeup off of my eyes, but just to sort of make sure that everything is nice and clean and finished up, I think it does a great job. I'm just going to pop on a little bit of eye cream. I use the Clinique Moisture Surge Eye, which is basically finished I think at this point. I have ordered a new one, so I'm just going to use a teeny tiny bit. I just want to make sure that the eye area is feeling nice and plump and refreshed, because otherwise if I don't, I feel like when I apply my primer it's just pulling and it doesn't sit properly. And then I'm also going to add some moisturizer to make sure that my skin is nice and hydrated before I apply makeup. I'm going to go in with the Clinique Moisture Surge, the one that is suitable for all skin types, just because it's really nice and hydrating, but it does sink into the skin really quickly. So I just like to get it on a spatula and just pop that all over my face. And then I do clean that spatula with isopropyl alcohol before using it again. I personally prefer to do my eyes first, so next up I'm going to prime my eyes, and I'm not going to be using my P. Louise base today. I know. P. Louise base is really great when you really want colours to pop on the eyes, especially if you're using bright colours that might not show up as much with a traditional primer. But when I'm doing something for every day, like when I'm going to work, I don't want such a heavy duty primer. I just want something that's going to help my eyeshadow to stick and stay in place all day. So today I'm going to go in with one of the Maybelline Colour Tattoos. I didn't even know if they still sold these. I genuinely had to look them up and make sure that they still did before using them, because these have been around for years. I think they came out, I was in school, so that was a long time ago. These are dupes for the MAC Paint Pots. This is Creme de Rose, which is a dupe for Painterly, and then this one is Creme de Nude, which is a more yellowy one. I can't remember the shade that it dupes in MAC, but they are pretty close. They've been known to be dupes for them for years, and I had them on hand and they're pretty cheap. And the brush I'm going to use for that is a Pro Arte Master Stroke Series 61. This is size 6, so it's the same brush that I use with the P. Louise base, but a much smaller size, because I just wanted something a little bit sturdier today. I'm going to pick some up on my brush and start packing it on my lid. I'm not going to go too heavy with it though. I would say that matches the colour of the skin on my eyes pretty well. Now the good thing with this product is that you can kind of use it however you want. You can use it with your finger. If you don't want to use a brush, you can use it with more of a blending brush. The reason I've chosen to go with a brush like this is that I do still want to carve my brow out, and that is completely optional. I prefer to do it at this stage because I just find it helps me then draw on the brow later. gonna smooth it out with my finger. So you can see the brow isn't as defined as it would be with the P2E's base, and I haven't got as much coverage, but it's just gonna be overall a lot more natural. And then I'm also gonna bring it underneath the eye as well. I haven't really decided what I'm gonna do with the lower lash line yet, so I'm just gonna prime it just in case. But I'm just using a teeny tiny bit. So now that I've primed my eyes, the next thing that I want to do is create a guide for the shape that I'm going to be going for. A really, really easy way to do that is to use tape, or I prefer to use a shadow shield, just because I feel like they're actually designed to use on the skin and tape isn't. And what tape is going to do is give you that really, really sharp, defined edge, but I don't actually want that today. So instead, I'm going to be using a liner to map out my shape. I'm going to go for a brown, but you can use any color that you want. You could go for a black if you wanted to go for something really, really smoky. You could also go for colors if you wanted to. I just want to keep it really neutral, so I'm going to go for brown. But what I want to do at this stage is stick to a darker shade of my chosen color and also stick to something matte. Now, I don't actually have a matte dark brown eyeliner. I have ordered one for Superdrug, but with everything that's going on, it just hasn't shipped at the moment. So I'm going to cheat. I'm going to use a lip liner instead, which I know you're not really meant to do. So if you do have an eyeliner, use that instead. The one that I'm going for today is the Peaches and Cream lip liner in Hotline. What I want to do at this stage is just draw out the shape that I'm going to be working with. So I'm going to start at my outer corner, and I just want to follow the shape of my lower lash line and start bringing it outwards and upwards. I'm not going to take it as far out as I want the final look to go, just because I'm going to come in and blend in a second, so it's going to get pulled out anyway. And then I'm just going to come back in and add some more by the top lash line. I'm not going to be too neat or anything. I just want to get the basic shape on. And I'm only taking that halfway. So now what I'm going to do is blend that out. So I'm going to take a small flat eyeshadow brush. This one is quite short and stubby, and also it's fairly narrow, so it doesn't have too much flexibility. It's quite dense. This is from a really old eBay set I've had for over 10 years possibly at this point, but it still works great. And so what I'm going to do now is use this one to blend out the eyeshadow and take it further over into the lid. And then, as I mentioned, at the outer corner, I'm also dragging it upwards further, more to the length where I want the shadow. And then I'm also kind of dragging it back into the crease, creating that slightly curved shape. I'm trying to make sure I'm keeping that bottom edge pretty clean. Doesn't have to be super neat. And then what I'm going to do as well is drag the colour into the outer corner of the lower lash line. A lot of these Foxy eye looks that I've come across do seem to leave the lower lash line bare. I don't know if I'm going to do that yet, because I don't know if I like that look on me. But I do just want to tie the lower lash line into the top lid a little bit, because otherwise I just find it leaves that corner looking a bit bare. So now that we've got our basic shape drawn on, we can start going in with some eyeshadow. I'm going to be using the Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance palette. Even though this one came out a few years ago, I think this one is still a really, really good palette, because it's great for all levels. I think this one's really, really good whether you're a beginner or a professional makeup artist, and it has most things you need in there for complete looks. So you have some more red, pinky shades, and you've got your lighter ones, you've got your darker ones. Same with the oranges, you've got a darker shade here, you've got more of your transition shades over here. Today I'm sticking to the neutral shades, so I am going to be starting off with the shade Warm Taupe. Anastasia's shades are known for being very, very powdery, so if you do like to do your base first, just make sure that you're tapping off your excess. So I'm just using the same brush because I do want to keep this as simple as possible, and I'm going to start by packing that on where we initially positioned the liner. And using eyeliner as a base like this that you smoke out and blend out, and then piling on colours over the top of it, is literally the easiest way to do a smoky eye. It's just great if you're a beginner. So now that I'm happy with how much I've added on, I'm going to go into my second brush, which is going to be a Zoeva 231, and again I'm just going to blend it out. I just want to make sure that the colour is always the strongest, nearest to the lash line and the bottom of the wing, and as we get further into the lid, it just smokes out. Then once that is blended out, I'm going to go in with my next colour, and this time I'm going to take Cypress Umber. So I'm going to take it on the same brush, but as you can see I'm dipping in really, really lightly. I'm literally dipping in the end of the brush, and again I'm just going to tap off that excess. And this time I'm going to try and stay a lot closer to the lash line. So right now I'm literally right on the outer corner. I haven't brought it any further out. Gonna add a little bit more, but I literally just tapped my brush in so lightly, and then once I've worked in the majority of that colour right into the outer corner, I'm gonna start bringing it outwards on either side and upwards. And then again after that, I'm going in with that Zoeva 231. And at no point am I adding in any more product with the Zoeva 231. I'm using it clean. I'm kind of brushing downwards as well rather than upwards, just so that I'm not taking that shadow too far out. And then when I do want to bring it a bit further out, then I work in those upward strokes again. And then again, when I get to the crease, I'm just gonna bring it this way as well, really darken that outer corner. Next up, I'm going to go in with my main lid shade, which is going to be my shimmer. I'm going to try Primavera. And for my shimmers, I like to use this brush. Again, this is one that I've had for years and years and years. It's another flat eyeshadow brush, but it's just a bit bigger, a bit wider, and it's got more thickness to it as well, so it's a lot more flexible. And I find that picks up my shimmers really, really well. So I'm going to pack that on the lid. I'm starting at the inner corner, packing it into the crease and on the lid. And you do want to make sure that you're using a packing motion with your shimmer, because it's just going to be a lot more intense. And I'm sticking to that diagonal that I've ended up creating. And then once it's packed on, I'm going to go in with that clean Zoeva brush again, which, and it's not really that clean anymore, but I'm going to help blend my matte shades in with the shimmer, and same in the crease area. But I'm keeping the whole front part of the crease free of mattes, because I really, really want the shimmer to pop in that area. Another thing you could do is use your highlighter, which is what I've seen Make Me Up Misser do. And in fact, if you really wanted to simplify this look and use as few products as possible, one thing that you could do would be to use your contour shade, your bronzer and your highlighter, or your bronzer, your blusher and your highlighter, just in the same way as we've used the eyeshadows, and it would have a really similar effect but be even easier, and it would just tie in the eyes so beautifully with the rest of the face. I'm just going to pack on a bit more right at the front. Make sure it's the most intense there. Okay, I'm going to leave the eyeshadow here for now. I'm not going to do my lower lash line. I think I'm going to decide on what I'm doing with that once my whole face is done and I have a better idea of how I want things to look. But I am going to do my eyeliner right now, because I just find it easier to do it before the face is on, in case I just need to rest my hand on my cheeks. That way I don't ruin anything I've done. If you're brand new to eyeliner, I definitely recommend going in with a pen. It will make your life so much easier. I would say it's the easiest method to control. I'm going to go in with the Collection Extreme 24-Hour Felt Tip Liner. I used this like 10 years ago, something ridiculous like that, and I used to really, really enjoy it. The other thing that I recommend when doing winged liner is to stabilize the arm that you're working with, so it's going to stop any shaking and any possible mistakes. So I normally would lean my elbow on my table, but if I do that, I'm not going to be visible. So I've just grabbed had a salsa jar. This is what I use to keep all my pigments in. And I've just got it on the table, and then I'm gonna prop my elbow in there, and it's just gonna keep me nice and stable. This pen is quite thick, so I don't know how precise it's gonna be, but we're gonna give it a go. With eyeliner, the way that I like to work is to work in a similar way as we did at the start of the eyeshadow. So I like to start in my outer corner and just start extending from the lower lash line. I'm just working with really small motions. Wow, oh, I literally just stuck that right on the eye. I will have to clean that up. I'm then gonna move onto the lid and start drawing a line extending into that wing that we've just drawn on. So you can see I've just started off by keeping that really thin, and then I'm gonna start extending that into the inner corner of the eye. I'm almost working more in stamping motions than just dragging it out. And then I'm gonna slowly start thickening it, but I don't want this to be a really heavy liner. I still want it to be quite minimal. And I'm really sorry guys, because to finish off this wing, I do need to get really close to the mirror, so unfortunately this part isn't gonna be in frame, but I'm just carrying on that extension and just thickening it up slightly, and then I'm going to finish up the wing and make sure it's nice and pointy at the end. Okay, there we go, so that's my wing done. In terms of using this particular liner pen, the point on it is a little bit thick. I could have done with something a little bit thinner, a little bit more precise, but overall, I like how this wing turned out. I'm gonna leave the eyes here for now, again, because I'm still not quite sure what I want to do with the lower lash line, and I think it'll be a bit nicer to do once I've got everything on and I can see how everything ties in together. So I'm gonna move on to the skin. So first up, I'm gonna prime, and I'm gonna use the Smashbox Oil and Shine Control Primer. And I'm just gonna use that in the areas where I get oily. So that's my nose, and the tops of my cheekbones, and my forehead. For my foundation, I'm gonna go in with the Clinique Beyond Perfecting. This is the shade Breeze, and this one is foundation and concealer. I'm not going to then have to go in with another step of concealer, so that's what we're going to go in with today. So the one does apply the product pretty lightly. It's a much more controlled application. We're not wasting any product, so this is definitely not going to be enough for me. I know I'm going to have to go in for more, but I'm not applying too much. So I'm just using a Real Techniques sponge to blend that out. So I'm leaving the under eye area bare at this stage because I'm going to go in with concealer afterwards. If you don't use concealer for highlighting, you can just go in with this foundation underneath your eyes because it does have that 2-in-1. But because I am going to go in with concealer afterwards, I don't want to layer on loads of products, so I'm leaving the area bare. So as you can see, it's a bit uneven. There's definitely areas that have got coverage and areas that haven't. So I'm just going to go in with more product now, starting on the forehead. So you can just build this one up really nicely. And then I'm also going to add more to this cheek because it does need a bit more coverage. And then just a little bit more on this side as well. I do just need a little bit more coverage here. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. Next up, I'm going to highlight with some concealer, and I'm going to use my Too Faced Born This Way in the shade Swan. And to make sure I don't go in too heavy with it, rather than apply it straight from the doe foot, I just like to pop some on a palette. And then I use a Morphe M224. So I'm just going to pick up just a little bit of product, and then I start applying the product where I want it. I would normally blend this out with a brush, but we're going to keep our tools to a minimum today. So I'm going to use the Real Techniques sponge again. And then I like to go down the nose. And then I do the top lip. And then the chin. And then I've just brought my mirror in closer so that I can do my under eye. So here I really want to make sure I'm not adding too much product, because otherwise it's just going to look really, really creasy. So I'm going to start by adding it on the outside of the eye, and I'm still going to use my sponge, and I'm going to bring it upwards to the eyeshadow. So you just want to be a little bit careful here that you don't overlap with the eyeshadow, but even if you do, it's not the end of the world. You can always come back and add a bit more. And then I'm going to come in on the inside of the eye with a little bit more product. So I just need to make sure that I really get into that inner corner, which I find a little bit harder with a sponge, but I do get a lot of darkness there, so I really want to make sure I get in there. And then I'm going to bring it in and finish covering that up. So I'm really not going with a lot of product at all. And I'm just going over the top of the outer corner here as well, just to try and make sure that there's no line in between the primer and the foundation. Next up, I'm going to powder, and I'm going to go in with the MAC Mineralized Skin Finish in Light. And I like to take mine on a PC04 by Peaches and Cream. I'm just going to powder. And then I'm also going to use the powder to help me finish off the top edge of the eyeshadow. So I'm taking it on a Morphe M330, which is a really, really flexible crease brush. And I'm going to come in and literally just blend over the top edge. And I'm going to do that all the way through the crease. This is just going to help soften the eyeshadow, make sure there are no harsh lines at the top. But I'm also taking it over the last of that primer to make sure the colour is really nicely tied into the foundation. And then if you felt like maybe the underneath of the eye here had gotten a bit too harsh as well, you can just soften that edge up too. I like to do my bronzer next, and I'm trying to stick to a minimal number of products again here. So I'm going to go in with my Revolution and Patricia Bright face palette. This is Moonlight Glow, which is the lightest one. For my bronzer, I like to use a brush like this one. This is from Iconic London. It's from the Ultimate Brush Set, which I will check online to see if they still make it and link it down below for you guys. So I'm just going to dip into the central shade and start with my cheekbones. And then I bring it up into my temples, and I do have quite a big forehead, so I do bring it all around, and then I also bring it underneath the jawline as well, just to hide the double chin, and then just blend them in together. I'm pretty sure this is meant to be a bronzer, but it's actually cool toned enough that it's more of a contour. In case you're ever unsure, bronzer and contour are designed to do two different things. Bronzer is more warm toned to warm up your face, and contour is cool toned because it creates shadow. So in theory, you should be using both because they do two different things, but I don't have the time to do both in the morning. I normally just tend to do bronzer because it just adds a nice amount of colour to the face. This one is maybe a little bit too cool toned, which is probably why I haven't reached for it all that much. But face palettes like this one are just really, really convenient and really handy, especially if you're on the go. I was going to say if you're travelling, but no one's travelling at the moment. It's just a very convenient one and a nice little size to pack away. And then at this stage, I do like to add some setting spray just because I find it helps to blend in all the layers together and get rid of a little bit of powderiness. So I go in with the MUA Pro Base Mattifying Fixing Spray. I still have that little black stain from the eyeliner from earlier that I haven't cleaned up yet. So I'm just taking a little bit of the micellar water just on a cotton bud. I'm going to very carefully remove it. There we go. And then I'm going to go back in with the Zoeva brush and just blend over. Right, I'm going to come and finish up the lower lash line. So I'm going to go in with the shade Warm Taupe again from the palette. This time I'm using a really, really tiny eyeshadow brush. And again, I'm really, really tapping off that excess because I don't want to get any fallout on my cheeks now that I've got all my foundation on. And I'm just going to come and start in the outer corner and just smoke things out a little bit. I'm going really, really lightly. I'm just creating the tiniest bit of shadow. I don't want this to be too visible. I'm not trying to go for a really dramatic lower lash line. I just prefer the way that my eyes look if I just add a little bit rather than leaving it bare. I think it would be really nice to add a nice nude waterline to open up the eyes. Unfortunately, I don't have one that I like at the moment, so I'm gonna leave it bare, but I'm gonna move on and do my highlight next. So I'm gonna jump back into the palette. I'm taking my PC17 from Peaches and Cream. I'm gonna start at the top of my cheekbones, and I really, really like this shade of highlighter. I think it's my favorite one from Revolution because it's light enough for me, but it's also a wearable shade. Like, I can wear this every day, and I really, really wish they would make this in a single, because their single highlighters just tend to be too dark or way too white and intense for me, which is just not what I'm after today. And then I'm gonna take it on the end of the nose and down the bridge as well. Again, if you want to make that more intense, you can use a denser brush, something a bit shorter like that Morphe brush that we used to neaten up the crease. But we're gonna keep things quite soft today, I think. And then I'm also going to highlight up here, and what I'm gonna do is bring that through the brow and do the top of the brow bone just above the eyeshadow as well. And this is why I'm doing this before my brows. If I was doing this after my brows, I'd have to use two separate brushes, make sure I'm not getting anything in the brows themselves, but this way I can just be a bit lazy about it and just use the one brush. And then I'm also gonna add some just at the front, so that way when I'm looking forwards, I'm still catching the light a little bit. I do really, really like this highlighter. And then I'm also gonna highlight my inner corner. So this time I am changing brush and I'm getting a clean one. I'm using the Nancy tapered crease brush, so any sort of small rounded brush will do. And I'm gonna add that right on the inner corner. And I'm gonna bring it in and up as well a little bit, just to really illuminate that. You know what, I'm just gonna intensify it up here as well, I think, just because I like a lot of highlight. And then I'm just going to take that Morphe M331 that I used to run the powder through the crease and just soften that up right in the crease here. Again, I don't want any harsh edges. And next, I just want to finish up that Foxy / cat eye effect, whatever you want to call it. And to do that, I just want to extend the eyeliner right into the inner corner. Again, this is something that's just going to be a lot easier if you're using a pen rather than something on a brush. I find I tend to make a lot more mistakes, whereas with something like this, I should in theory be okay. We'll see. I think I'm gonna have to get quite close to the mirror, so I do apologize. I've stabilized my arm again, and I just need to extend that out. And I'm just connecting it up to the liner. There we go, you can barely even see that. I've made that really, really small. It's just helped balance things out with the eyeliner that we drew on here and helped extend the eye in this direction as well. I'm gonna do my brows next, and the quickest and the easiest way to do them for me is by using a pencil. This is the MUA Brow Define Eyebrow Pencil. I have spoken about it on my channel before. I was sent it in PR, can't stop using it, and it's £1.50, which is so, so cheap. I like to start by doing the top of my eyebrow, and I like to work in really short strokes with this because it's definitely more pigmented than a micro mechanical pencil that you twist up, but it's also quicker to use again, and I do really, really like the result that this one has. Just gonna blend that a little bit and then push the eyebrow hairs up the other way. And then I just basically draw on the bottom using that guide that I drew out for myself with the primer, and then I go back in with those short strokes. And then when I get to the front of the brow, I just kind of lay the pencil on its side, and then I go back in with the short strokes and back in with the spoolie just to blend out. And you do want to be really careful at the front of the brow because this is quite pigmented, so you want to make sure that you're not going in too heavy. So again, I would just keep working in those really, really short strokes. And then once I'm happy with what I've drawn on, I'm gonna set that in place. I've actually run out of brow gel altogether at the moment, so I'm using the Got To Be Glued spiking glue. I think now that I've figured out how to work it, I do really like the way it looks because it does make them look a little bit more fluffy. So I just put a little bit on the back of my hand. I mean, that is too much. And then I take my spoolie and I just run it like that. I want to make sure I don't have too much excess product on there. And then I just brush it through the brow hairs. I just brush them upwards to give them a little bit more fluff. And then I do just push them down a little bit again. So I've given them the volume, but I don't actually want them to be too fluffy. And then a little bit more fluffy at the end. I'm gonna add my mascara next, and I'm gonna go in with the Urban Decay Perversion Mascara. It's gone a little bit clumpy, so I just use an old mascara one that I've cleaned off just to separate those again. You know what, I'm not going to use any mascara on the lower lash line either. I'm just going to leave them like that because I think it's actually quite nice. Never thought I'd say it because normally I feel weird if I don't use any mascara on the bottom lashes, but I kind of like it. I'm just going to add some eyelashes as well, and I'm going to go in with some Ivy Lashes by Daxi Beauty because they're a really nice elongated pair. But what I've done, I've actually cut them in half. I'm just going to be using the inside half of the lashes, and I'm going to place them just on the outside of the eye. And by doing that, we're still creating that elongation. We're following the liner. So I'm going to use some Duo Lash Glue. It's the one that comes with this applicator, which is so much easier to use. And leave it to dry for a little bit, and then I'm going to pop the lashes just on the outer corner. Now if you don't fancy cutting up a pair of eyelashes, you can buy half lashes. I know Ardell do them, so they would be pretty affordable. I mean, Daxi lashes are £3, and when you buy them on a tray of 5 like that, they come in even cheaper, so why not? And then I'm going to jump back into the Patricia Bright palette, and this time I'm going to use the brush. And for this I also use an iconic London brush from the same brush set. Pigmentation on this blush is quite nice. I'm not having to dip back in too much. What's quite nice about doing the highlighter before the blush is that it does just help meld it in a bit better with the blush rather than just sitting on top. I'd say it would look a bit more natural. Obviously it doesn't look natural because I do like to wear a lot of highlighter, but I guess yeah, it ends up looking a little bit more natural in a way. And I like to do the same on the nose as well. And then for my lips, I wasn't sure if I wanted something nude or something red, so I asked my followers to vote on Instagram for what they wanted to see, and the vote overwhelmingly went in favour of the nude lip, so that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to start off with another Peaches and Cream lip liner. This is the shade Praline. I like to start in the middle of my lip, and I do go just underneath my lip line, and then when I get to the corners there, I stick to inside my lip line and connect them up. And then I'm just going to thicken that a little bit. And then I'm going to do the top lip. And again, I'm going to thicken that up. And then for the lipstick, I'm going to go in with Bonafide from MUA. And then I'm going to go back in with a little bit of lip liner to make sure everything is nice and defined and blended in. And then I do just want to add a little bit of gloss, so I'm going to go in with my Fenty Beauty Mini Gloss Bomb in the shade Fussy. Just adding a little bit right in the centre of the lip. And then to finish off the look, I'm just going to go in with a little bit of setting spray, and I do want to add a little bit of glow back in. So I'm going to go in with the L'Oreal Shake and Glow Spray. Or not. Alright, let's try that again. I'm going to go in with my L'Oreal Shake and Glow Spray. Why did I open my mouth? What is wrong with me? Alright guys, that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed me doing something a little bit easier and definitely a lot more wearable than what I normally do. I really like how this turned out. A cat eye, as I keep wanting to call it, or a foxy eye is really flattering and really glamorous because it just elongates your eye and just lifts it a little bit. And it is the kind of look that when I wear it, I think, God, I wish we were allowed to go out right now. Like, I just feel so glamorous wearing it. And the best part of it is that I literally used 3 eyeshadows to do it. This is how many brushes we use. This is my dirty brush pot and it is normally full, and there's probably another 3 or 4 on the table because they don't fit in there. But these are all the brushes that we use today, and if you wanted to really simplify this look and just eliminate using eyeshadow altogether, if you have a little palette like this one, you could easily use that to do the shadow. So go in with this one after the liner, darken up with this one, and then do the lid with that, and then that's it. If you enjoyed the video, then do, as always, please make sure that you give it a big thumbs up. Leave me a comment letting me know what you thought of it, and of course subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the next video, and I'll see you all on the next one. Bye guys!